All right, let's get this going. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, movie, books, and games, and everything in between. My name's
Oh, and
Justin, and
and my
that's
name's
Cliff.
Clifford. Hello there, yes, and a lot of everything in between. I mean, we're not just talking about the major books and the major familiar stories that we love with J.R.R. Tolkien. We're actually here to cover a lot of other pop culture and a lot of other elements that are coming and going all under the Tolkien umbrella. There's so many interesting things going on. We have news. There's not just another TV series going into season two, but there's another feature film coming up. We've got so much to talk about. And also award season craziness. It's all happening. Here you are on Torn Tuesday. So welcome everybody from the interwebs, joining us again at theonering.net, your one-stop destination, the world's largest web portal for fans of J.R.R. Tolkien. And hello, lovely to see you, Justin. How have you been?
It's great to see you, great to hear you, and great to see a lot of our regular viewers that have been loyal to the show for over 12 years going now. A lot of these familiar faces have seen us try all these different websites, whether it was Stickam or Justin.tv or Twitch or YouTube or whatever else. We're streaming on any platform that will allow us at this point. I see Jeannie and Ray and Kay and Oscar and Cecilia and Andrew and Marisol and Terry and
Mm-hmm.
Imran and Suzanne and Sarah Draper. Great to see your names. And before we get to the latest news, there's a lot of
Tis a
podcasts.
merry gathering. It is a merry gathering
It is a
indeed.
merry gathering,
It
and
is indeed.
I've always wondered if we put this show as a audio podcast, would you guys download and listen to that? We do appreciate everybody coming on to the
Sure.
live stream, but
Sure.
podcasts
But
seem to be all the rage right now.
they are. They really are. Do you want to hear the sound of me cracking my knuckles off camera? If you really want to do that, then hey, it could just be a whole area of your imagination, which is tickled by the audio only version of our show. Can you imagine? You know, one of our good friends, a longtime friend of Meltdown Comics and theonering.net, Derek Vandermillen, and his buddies, they went and got a new podcast going, which was very interesting. It's called AI Spoilers. They take a movie trailer, and its synopsis, they feed it into the AI, and then this ridiculous regurgitation comes out of a bizarre parody of the movie that you think you were going to see, and it's something else entirely. Really funny, funny stuff. I would check that out. But if we did a
Terry
pod,
in the Terry in the chat room says he thinks our podcast, or she or they think our podcast would be great if we actually did it and formatted it as everybody does with like
we
intro and
need
outro.
we need
Like
a library of sound effects.
there
We need
is
to have a
a
library of sound
soundboard.
effects. Yes, yes, we would need that, I think.
But we will never stop doing this show for the time being for as long as we can because
Yeah.
honestly it's the longest relationship I've ever had, and that's with Cliff Broadway doing the show.
And he
Um,
doesn't even mind when I don't shave. And I'm so sorry about my appearance, everybody, for just in case this becomes a podcast only. I'm looking like Grizzly Adams. It's really scruffy. And you know, Justin is quite good at sporting that dwarven beard, that full beard thing that you do so well,
I
Justin.
don't know about
But
that.
I'm not about that. I'm not I never did the no shave November. I never did that. I'm always so well groomed. I try to be, and I try to be, but I know I look really sloppy and messy. But thanks everybody for your patience with that.
Well,
And
the producer of Ringers, Lord of the Fans, needs to look like a producer once in a while. Well,
every
before we
now and
get into
then,
all the latest news, and we have so much stuff to talk about, happy 20th anniversary, folks. This is the week that Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, debuted in cinemas and knocked my shoes off in the theater. As you
I'm
can tell,
telling you,
this is the best version you can get. This is the full screen Lord of
it
the
is not.
Rings Two Towers theatrical cut. This
No,
is
that is
the
not the best.
definitive
Oh, no,
version
no, 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 no.
of, of Two Towers.
You
Um,
are so out of control. All right. No, admittedly, I believe it was December 19th. That was the day when the United States theatrical release of The Two Towers happened. And there's nothing more powerful in cinema. And I'm talking about every Martin Scorsese movie. I'm talking about every Kurosawa movie. whatever, I don't care. There's nothing more powerful to me in the world of motion picture cinema than to see the mountainside approach the camera. You know, we're swooping through these beautiful aerial shots of the Misty Mountains. And this is how Peter Jackson makes it all come back home to us. Taking those aerial shots over the beautiful snow-capped Misty Mountains, suddenly the mountain comes and approaches the camera, and we get closer and closer, and then boom, the camera dips inside the walls of the mountain, and suddenly we're there at that cataclysmic moment where the Two Towers takes us back to the clash between the Balrog and Gandalf, and then we follow them.
That was unbelievable. I can tell you,
breathtaking movie.
I had not read Lord of the Rings
Ever.
at the time I watched the movie. I never read it,
and so, it blew you away, did it not?
It knocked my socks off in the theater. I stood up when they fall into the chasm and go into the water.
Mm-hmm.
I stood up in the theater. I've never done that. I stood up and I'm just like cheering. I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this ever, with Howard Shore's epic choral arrangement and score. And it basically, it changed my life. That opening scene of Two Towers showed me something that film had never done before, which is remember this part of this movie when we last left our heroes, and then we followed the other hero doing his thing. I'm like, this is storytelling.
It's that moment when Frodo suddenly snaps awake from the nightmare, and you realize that maybe there's something else going on. Maybe the ring is making him prescient, making Frodo have visions of things. And it's just so disturbing. And the way that Frodo looks culpable, he feels, and at the very end of the Fellowship of the Ring, that is the emotional state where we left Frodo. He was feeling guilty, feeling responsible for the deaths of his comrades, for the death of Gandalf.
A couple trivia points on Two Towers.
Absolutely brilliant.
I consider it the best of the trilogy. I know it's argued. Everyone will argue about their favorite. I consider this the best of the trilogy. I consider this the most difficult to edit and produce and rework from a book into a movie. The editor of this film never worked in Hollywood again. It was so traumatic getting the edit of Two Towers correct that he never worked in Hollywood again. Peter was focused on Return of the King and fixing a lot of Return of the King. That Two Towers was kind of left to all the department heads to kind of figure out and get going. And remember, this is the first time that they actually used their big army simulation generator for the Battle of Helm's Deep. And even today, every single film list, every film snob, every film Twitter will tell you that it is the high watermark of army battles, of cinematic battles. Helm's Deep is it. And I will, unfortunately for Rings of Power, this is the benchmark. Because we all know where Rings of Power is headed. The final season of Rings of Power is going to have to outdo this.
Yeah,
the destruction of Helm's Deep. Do you think, do you think the fall of Numenor can emotionally?
Well, you're also talking about the arousal of the Ents and the Ents rising to war, which in Professor Tolkien's world is one of the most powerful themes, was that nature itself would rise up against the folly of the wizard Saruman. And so these amazing forces, powerful forces, are going to rise up against the Numenorians who would disobey the ban of the Valar. I see some heavy lifting. There's a lot of heavy lifting that has to be done in between now season 2 all the way to season 5. But you're right in that assessment, Justin. Rings of Power has to get to a bellwether point. There has to be a watermark, and that high watermark was set cinematically by the Two Towers. You're right. In terms of pacing, handling the momentum of the story, adding in new characters, adding in complexities of new narrative threads, balancing it all with previous characters and the demands of their stories. You're right. There's
Cliff, let me ask you,
analogy. Yeah.
In the Two Towers movie, when the elves show up and he says, "Once upon a time, an allegiance," yes, and we come and we honor.
That was a non-canonical moment. That was never in the books.
That was never in the books. Let me ask you this:
right,
when he says we come to honor that allegiance, is he talking about the final battle in Rings of Power?
Yes. Yes.
Really?
That is yeah, absolutely. He's referencing, maybe there's some room for debate, and we could get Corey Olsen to share some nuanced conversation with us about that.
No, we're not here for nuance. This is black or white.
But it's an instant reference to me of the War of Wrath, because it did represent how the Edain, the men of Middle Earth, came to the dwarves came to the assistance of the Eldar. And the reward was the island continent of Numenor. And I think that Haldir is making a specific reference to that, but maybe he's also referencing the last alliance of elves and men, which we see depicted at the opening of the Fellowship of the Ring. It's also possible that Haldir is referencing that.
Whatever Haldir's referencing, it's the end of Rings of Power. Included in Rings of Power. The other thing I want to say about the Two Towers is I was not expecting that they would introduce double the cast. I mean, Fellowship of the Ring was already like a fellowship, like you have 12 lead actors or 9 lead actors, and you have all this in Sauron, and then suddenly they double the amount of cast, and we never lose track of who's important and what they do. And the other thing that I think that makes the Battle of Helm's Deep really, really great is we've already spent a movie and a half getting to know the orcs and the Uruks and the goblins. And not only do we see them talk about, this is what we're doing. Like, we get a little bit of the culture, when the Uruks start fighting with each other, with the goblins, of like, they don't need their legs, let's eat them, or it's like, what do you smell? Man flesh. They've picked up our trowel. We've spent a movie and a half getting some personality of the orcs. And I feel like the orcs by the Two Towers have more personality than anything we've seen in season 1 of Rings of Power. And if there's any room for improvement on Rings of Power, it's that do the orcs right. And
do they keep any written records?
Do they have menus?
I think Professor Tolkien told us that they did not write, but Sauron invented the black speech of Mordor as a method of, it's an easier method of control, certainly, because the orcs that were enslaved to his service were driven, they were driven by fear. And I think that part of the linguistic approach that Tolkien had was that Sauron knew, kind of the way that George Orwell approaches new speak in his novel 1984, where control of a populace is somehow governed and managed through linguistic control. So it's a very interesting concept. But no, I am not aware that any of the orcs had been literate and could read or write. But they did learn verbally and had to live with not just the common speech, but with the black speech of Mordor as well.
There are bonus features on this full screen edition. Again, remember, this is before the extended edition and all the documentaries and the appendices. Do you guys want to know what came with the theatrical full screen cut of pan and scan 480i of this. It says full screen version with animated menus.
Def?
Oh yeah, standard def.
Standard def DVD. Oh no! Oh no!
Let's see. It says disc 2 has special features. There are 2 discs in here. In-depth programs revealing the secrets of production. A short film directed by Sean Astin.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. That's on there. Yeah.
Called The Long and Short of It.
The Long and Short of It. Yes,
directed by Sean Astin.
That was Sean's adorable little short film that he did.
And it says this DVD includes all of the featurettes created for LordOfTheRings.net.
Oh, that was their official New Line Cinema website.
So New Line Cinema, the OneRing.net wasn't the only place to get all of your Lord of the Rings news. There was Ain't It Cool? There was the OneRing.com, Tolkien Enthusiast Online, I think they renamed themselves. Yes. The OneRing.net, of course. But New Line Cinema hosted its own community website, and they posted pics and videos and screensavers and animated GIFs and everything. And so some of the featurettes created for the website, the LordOfTheRings.net, that they ended up putting on this DVD include: take a closer look at the people and places of Middle-earth, forces of darkness designing the sounds of Middle-earth, Edoras, creatures of Middle-earth, Gandalf the White, arms and armor, the Battle of Helm's Deep, and bringing Gollum to life. This was all web exclusive video.
Yes, that's right.
And I already the what I just listed is more in depth than any of the behind the scenes video we've gotten from Rings of Power yet. Like, come on, guys, step it up. Like, we want to see it.
Yeah, I hear you on that. That's a valid point.
This also includes an exclusive 10-minute preview of Return of the King.
Oh, okay.
The original theatrical trailer and TV spots, and the music video for Gollum's song.
Wait a minute. Can you put that in and play that right now? Because who knew that there was ever a video for Gollum's song?
I think we would get copy struck, but I'll work on that for next week. Because
am I as surprised as you that there really is an official video for? Well, it was supposed to be Bjork.
It's included on this, and it also says
Emiliana Torini had to replace Bjork in the recording studio because Bjork was about to have
she was
birth.
Pregnant. Yeah.
She was just about to go into labor. She was going into labor, and so she had to give up the job to sing the song.
And this also has a preview for Electronic Arts video game Return of the King and an inside look at the special edition, extended edition of The Two Towers that would be coming out later this year.
You know what's funny?
All of those features,
Blu-ray, all those features are never reproduced again. If you got a Blu-ray version later on because you wanted a different quality,
you didn't get these.
You wouldn't get any of those features.
Why do you think I have the full screen pan and scan SD version of the theatrical cut of The Two Towers?
I don't. You know what? I used to have those copies over there I'm looking on my bookshelf, and I'm looking over there to see. I don't have them anymore. Do you know what I have? I think I have the old VHS of The Two Towers.
All right, guys, chat room. I want to know. Do you guys want to see next week? Do you guys want to see what's on this the bonus features disc? Do you guys want to see that? Like, I'll figure it out.
All right. Do you know, there's another anniversary. Next week. I think that'd be really cool if we got to see some of those.
So
bits.
20 years. Fellowship of the Ring was okay. I went and saw Two Towers more because of all my friends wanted to go see it, and I had a good time. Two Towers is the movie that really, really got me into Return of the King, into Lord of the Rings. Period. Right. This is the movie that changed everything for me. And Cliff, I remember going to the midnight show. Remember, they stopped doing midnight showings of movies, first showings at midnight, after the Dark Knight, after Batman Begins got shot up in Colorado. Remember that midnight release? So that I remember that. This was before that, Midnight release was the first. Midnight was the first showing, and Cliff, I remember you surprised everybody at the Vista Theater in Hollywood.
Oh gosh.
What did you do for the midnight show that I did not know that the One Ring could pull off?
What did I do? What we brought Andy Serkis and
An
Sala
unknown,
Baker,
an
an
unknown
unknown,
Andy Serkis.
completely unknown Andy Serkis. I don't know who else was there. Was Sean Astin there? Yeah, you didn't realize it, but working with people through New Line and the OneRing.net was able to surprise all the fans. Many of those fans, had been camped out, sleeping on the sidewalk for days and days and days to be the first audience to go and see the Two Towers. Yeah, that was back in the time when we did camping and lining up on the sidewalks outside of movie theaters it was kind of like the Hall H experience before there was ever a Hall H experience. But you're right. We actually did pull some celebrity guest stars out of our hat, and
happy
it surprised everybody.
10th anniversary.
Happy 10th anniversary to The Hobbit.
To The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. 20th anniversary this week of the Two Towers. 10th anniversary of An Unexpected Journey. Cliff, can you believe that we're back in Middle Earth, that Amazon has brought us back into Middle Earth 10 years on? There was nothing more to say about Middle Earth. These were it. Did you ever think there was any possibility that we would be in the Second Age right now?
No, I didn't think so. I thought if there was a real possibility of anything, it would be years and years from now. But somebody would make the Silmarillion into a big, vast, multi-leveled TV series. A TV series that went on and on and on. But I'm excited to see this moment of every time there's a Christmas holiday, we all got excited for another Lord of the Rings or a Hobbit movie. And it started to become that annual Christmas tradition that come every December 19th or December 20th, we'd all get together with all of our fans and all of our friends and go to see The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. Still, that was 6 years. When you put all those movies together, that was a lot of years of going to the cinema and sharing that energy with everybody. Really
Let me tell you
stuff.
what's featured on the extended edition, An Unexpected Journey. This is the 10th anniversary. This is from the Blu-ray. Includes filmmakers' commentary. Disc 2 includes the appendices part 7. So they call the appendices part 7 in the first Hobbit movie.
That's because there were 6 appendices. There was 2 of them, 2 appendices for all the Lord of the Rings movies. Isn't that right? 1 and 2 for Fellowship.
Yeah.
Appendices 3 and 4 for Two Towers. Then appendices 5 and part 6 for Return of the King. And so, what do they call it? Appendices part 7?
Part 7 and part 8.
That would be the Michael Pellerin produced behind-the-scenes materials, which represented hours and hours and hours of in-depth coverage.
This is my favorite.
Wow.
Favorite of the original trilogy, and the first hour of this is everything that I wanted out of The Hobbit. We had 3 songs: "Blunt the Knives, Bend the Forks,"
Yep.
"The Dwarves Sing," "Misty Mountains,"
The Misty Mountains Cold. Yes.
"Misty Mountains Cold," and then we got some songs from the Goblins in the extended edition.
In the extended edition, there was actually a couple of weird torture. It was a torture song for the Goblins.
I wish there were more songs.
Oh my
I
God,
wish there were
Monica,
more songs, and I
love it.
wonder,
I love
Cliff,
it. Watch party. That's a
do
great
you
idea,
want
Monica.
more songs in Rings of
great.
Power?
Yeah. Oh my God, look at how wonderful people responded to Wandering Day. Everybody loved that song. That song was so beautiful. What a great idea. Yes, Rings of Power did us the great, great service of giving us that beautiful Wandering Day. And they even had Fiona Apple singing this, belting, really I never imagined Fiona Apple as the type of vocalist who would be belting, but she was belting out that Rings of Power song at the end. And I think immediately, yes, all of us would love to have more songs in seasons of the Rings of Power. That would be great. That'd be really great to have. Absolutely.
It'd be so much fun.
Oh, Eravandi says more of Disa. Yes, yeah. Let's have more of Disa singing and resonating. Absolutely. That was really awesome. I dig that.
So that's enough of a look back. So happy 20th anniversary to Two Towers and 10th anniversary to An Unexpected Journey, and I'm just so happy that we're back in Middle Earth.
We are. I'm happy we're back too. And even though, we can talk about whether we have, certain opinions of it, it is great. It's really overall great to be back in Middle Earth. And you know what I said about the Hobbit trilogy? I said, and I'll say it again, I'll say it live on the air, and I've got a tweet that's doing a lot of mileage out here. But honestly, one of the better aspects of the Hobbit trilogy was seeing Christopher Lee come back to give a really great portrayal, and to have us have a better understanding of what his character was like before he turned evil. And the Hobbit trilogy gives us a lot more good stuff than the
I still think there's a chance that the Meteor Man in Rings of Power could be Saruman.
It's also possible that there will be maybe there's another Meteor Man, and then we could have two blue wizards. But that's just my fanciful notion, but maybe. It's possible.
All right, moving on to the latest news.
What's in the news, Justin? What's in the news?
Well, let's see if I can bring this up here. The producer of War of the Rohirrim, speaking of anniversaries, the producer of War of the Rohirrim, the next in the series of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogy, from Philippa Boyens, the Oscar-winning writer of those trilogies. We got a chance to ask him, have any of the changes this year with Discovery or Embracer affect Rohirrim movie? And Jason DeMarco, the executive producer of the new anime War of the Rohirrim, says, no, not so far. So, Cliff, all systems go. All systems go.
Good. That's good. I mean, it could have been an unexpected negative impact with the Embracer group all of a sudden swooping in and getting all the previous rights. But you know what? It must mean that they've got an ironclad deal. When New Line Cinema figured out their legal paperwork for executing the creative rights to do the War of the Rohirrim, they must have had really good contract language, so that nothing like such a takeover of the intellectual property rights could alter the course of the production. I think that's great. That's great news.
That's great news. Varking in the chat room says, if Jason DeMarco could stop being a jerk on Twitter, hey, he is just an opinionated voice on Twitter like everyone is. And right now, I think everyone on Twitter is being jerks. Like, Twitter is just a jerk fest right now. It's not a healthy platform to be on right now, and I'm so happy that our chat room and most of the subreddit that Varking mods is a wonderful, charming place, and of course the One Ring message boards.
Absolutely. Well, I'm still one little voice out there in the Twitter wilderness, trying to say positive Tolkien things and have some good energy. But there's, what, it's just a mess. It's such a mess. It's such a mess.
Moving on. We mentioned last week that Ismail Cruz Cordova got a Critics' Choice Award for Best Supporting Actor in a Drama Series. He's the only Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power nomination for the Critics' Choice Awards. But Cliff, you heard the big bad news about the Golden Globes.
Well, yes, I did. It was very intriguing to see that Critics' Choice nomination for Mr. Cordova, and well earned, and really good. Congratulations to him. But when the news came out that the Golden Globes brought no nominations of any kind at all for the Rings of Power, even the Sandman series was overlooked. They sprinkled around a lot of nominations among House of the Dragon and Severance, A couple of other shows got some nominations, but The Rings of Power itself did not get any actors or series or writing or anything nominations. And that's just the beginning of what might become a bit of a weird award season that we're going into. Coming up later on, there will be the National Board of Review, and they'll put out their best films of the year, and everyone's going to be voting. And then it'll be the Oscar nominations. But a little bit further down the road, we're going to get Primetime Emmy nominations.
Well, that's not until next September.
But
but
that's a long way off.
People's Choice Awards, Rings of Power, has been nominated for Best Sci-Fi Fantasy Show at the People's Choice Awards. It's another big one that I think is on TV sometimes, or maybe they stream it nowadays. And then another big nomination, Hollywood Music and Media Awards, Best Score by Bear McCreary, who just won this week Best Score at the Game Awards for his score for God of War Ragnarok. So congrats to Bear McCreary for winning for God of War.
Big time congratulations. Bear deserves it. One of the best aspects of the Rings of Power is definitely his work and the music. It's wonderful stuff. Everybody can agree on that. So
Orion's Angel in the chat room says the People's Choice Awards was on the E Network last year.
That's right. It was.
Expectation that it will be.
I think it has. The next thing, I was going to say, sorry, Justin, the next thing that we really need to look out for is when the Screen Actors Guild makes their nominations. That's going to be the next big banner to see if Rings of Power is collecting momentum in award season. Don't you think?
Yes, that is. I think you're right. The SAG Awards is the one. People in the chat room are saying they're surprised that Rings of Power is not getting more technical awards. The Emmys celebrate television, and those are not until next year, like next August or September. The Emmys are very far away. It's got a long. We're not even close to getting nominated. I think they do the nominations like in June or something like that. So we're not even close. And since Rings of Power is a TV show, that's going to be its main. It's going to be its main. But I think you're right. The Screen Actors Guild Awards is the other big one. I'm shocked that the Golden Globes did not, because Amazon have made a big deal that this is a global show. And the Golden Globes are run by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. So the Golden Globes,
all journalists and writers from the foreign papers and
from the foreign papers,
international writers. So you would have thought they would have got some grease on the wheels from the Golden Globes, and I honestly am a bit surprised that they got snubbed like that. Really,
yeah, it was shocking. Just because and Golden Globes has had a little bit of drama over the last couple of years. They were kicked off TV, rightfully so. And I think it had something to do with some institutional misogyny and racism. So I would thought that the Golden Globes would have looked at Rings of Power, a global show that was released day and date across the globe. It was out the same day in India that it was in America, as it was in England. It was just and Brazil, and Rings of Power has celebrated its diversity casting and its women behind the camera, Charlotte Branstrom directing, and just its wonderful eclectic group of artisans and filmmakers that worked on season 1 of the Rings of Power. It has everything that the Golden Globes should want out of a show.
Yeah, you thought it would be directly in their wheelhouse. Wouldn't you have thought?
Right.
I mean, I think I have a screen pulled up that has all of the nominees of the Golden Globes. Let's see if I have it right here. Nope, I may actually, let me reopen that tab, because believe it or not,
it was House of Dragon and Andor got nominations at the So the two shows that were directly up against Rings of Power at the same time. House of Dragon was on HBO, Andor was on Disney.
Yep, Andor, best motion picture, best actress. Let me go past the motion pictures and go right into the television categories. Okay. Okay, all motion pictures. Let's go down to television. I've got a whole list. Okay, television series drama. You can look at The Crown, Better Call Saul, Ozark, Severance, and House of the Dragon. That's it. There's your top 5. Okay, actresses, believe it or not, there's a lot of energy from the House of the Dragon community because Emma Darcy was nominated for Best Actress, and she was only in a few episodes.
Yeah,
Remember?
that was weird.
Yeah,
I don't know with the time jumps that they have in season 1 of House of Dragon. I don't know.
Zendaya for Euphoria, Hilary Swank for Alaska Daily, and then our very own Imelda Staunton from Harry Potter fame is playing Queen Elizabeth II in The Crown, and then Laura Linney from Ozark. Actors include Jeff Bridges from The Old Man. I haven't even seen that TV show. Kevin Costner from Yellowstone, Diego Luna, Andor, Bob Odenkirk, Better Call Saul, and Adam Scott from Severance. And then they move on to musical and comedy categories, and that wouldn't be
Rings of Power. Demosthenes just joined the chat room. Demosthenes, this is the news. We asked the executive producer of Roar the Rohirrim what the status is. Has Discovery or Embracer affected Rohirrim? And he says no, not so far. All systems go. So that's exciting. So Cliff, awards season. I think Ismail Cruz Cordova deserves any and all the awards. I think he deserves it. He deserves it, being a wonderful Puerto Rican actor that was in some wonderful HBO shows with Hugh Grant a couple years ago. And Nicole Kidman, I think she was. Yeah, the Hugh Grant Nicole Kidman show on HBO. He's wonderful. He is a star in this show. Yes. He is the next Orlando Bloom. And he had to put up with so much junk on the internet because of his existence, because of his casting, and to still deliver the performance. And he didn't let the internet get to him. And in fact, he used the energy that the internet was throwing at him, and he put it all into the character. And there's so that for that reason alone, he deserves all the awards.
Totally, I agree. There's such an energy behind what he's doing. I'm gonna miss him in season 2. Again, we're rumoring. Maybe it's a Green Dragon gossip moment, but is it confirmed news or is it really a rumor? But I'm gonna say again, I'm gonna miss him until seasons 3 or 4 when his character shows up again in the Rings of Power.
It's just a rumor. It's it's just a Green Dragon gossip rumor that he's Ismail's character is not involved in season 2. There's still time to change. Again, they're not supposed to be coming out for another year and a half or 2 years. So for season 2, so there's still time enough to change. But they are filming season 2 right now, and he is not on set. He is here in the Western Hemisphere doing conventions, doing press, trying to get nominated, supporting the show from award season, which is a full-time job, and he should stay here in the Western Hemisphere and try to get some Screen Actors Guild Awards. Oh, update from the set.
I apologize for mispronouncing Zendaya's name. I'm sorry for mispronouncing that. I'm gonna take some heat for that. I'm sorry about that. Sorry.
Cliff, breaking news.
Go ahead, Justin.
Breaking news from the set of Rings of Power Season 2.
What's the news?
Morfydd Clark has COVID. Galadriel has just come down with COVID. She's posted on Instagram.
Oh, dear.
Morfydd Clark is down with COVID. This puts a pause, of course, on her filming. And as we showed you last week from Fellowship of Fans and Redanian Intelligence, she was on set last week with Elrond and a bunch of long-haired elves in the woods shooting in England. So She is actually supposed to be filming, and she is down for the count. Does this mean an extra long Christmas break for her? Maybe she gets a whole 3 or 4 weeks off now while she deals with COVID and then does the holidays and then New Year's. Who knows what their shooting schedule is? But as of last week, she was on set shooting with everybody. And, of course, COVID affected every production in 2020.
Indeed, it did.
And there are
really
protocols in place to keep things moving. But you can imagine if she tested positive, you can imagine everybody on set with her in recent days have also had to test. And maybe some critical crew members, maybe some fellow cast members that aren't on Instagram. So there you go. Andrew Morris in the chat room says they would probably have break for holiday by the end of this week anyway. So of Gondor in the chat room says, Cliff, do you think she creates her mirror to heal herself from COVID?
No. Oh my gosh, that's funny. I tell you what, I want her to heal quickly. When I caught it after San Diego Comic-Con,
that was your first time, yeah?
My first and only time, and I'm glad that I recovered very quickly after a couple of days of fatigue. And I hope that it's an easy thing for her to recover from and get past it, because there's a lot of stuff to do, and they've got a busy schedule. Do you know what? I got to go back and talk about Adar and the Uruks, and I would say that it's probably one of the more, if not the most ambitious approach to adapting J.R.R. Tolkien, is because in the way that Tolkien writes the books, there is no sympathetic point of view from the orcs' point of view ever.
No, he doesn't go there.
And so no, he does not. Professor Tolkien gives you a glimpse into the kind of levels that they treat each other in different levels, but the echelons, the strata, maybe you could call them social strata.
Social strata.
Social strata of orcs, but there's not a sympathetic point of view the way that Adar says these creatures are as deserving of life as you or anybody else. And that has never been put forward in any Tolkien adaptation. And I would venture to say it's the most ambitious aspect of the story adaptation, period. Really.
Interesting.
Really. And I think that even though, the rumors are that Ismail Cruz Cordova is not going to be around in season 2, I think there's a lot more interesting conflict that can happen from the survivors of the Southlands and the developing powers of Mordor, where Sauron and the Uruks are now going to be there with Adar. What's going to be the resolution? I'm just as interested in the resolution of what will happen between Halbrand / Sauron and Adar himself, who's going to take control of all the population of orcs that are there in Mordor. What's going to happen there? I think that season 2 has some interesting stuff going on, and I'm going to be glad to go back to Middle Earth again with them.
It's already proven that the Adar and Sauron kind of have some personal beef.
They sure do.
So,
and again, it's stuff that is being withheld from the audience. I've been complaining on our weekly show for quite a long time about the stuff that is mysterious that I believe should be spelled out more literally to the audience. But I am reminded once again, a quote of Gandalf in The Return of the King, where he says, quote, "Many like to know beforehand what is to be set at the table and to know what the feast is going to be. But perhaps to those who prepare the supper, when the people sit down and are surprised and delighted by what is actually served, it makes the words of praise even more potent and more loud." And I'm destroying the quote from Gandalf, but you get it. You get what I'm saying.
Cliff, a lot of people in the chat room, you started talking about Adar and the orcs. A lot of people in the chat room are still lamenting over the recasting of Joseph Mawle. Have you heard anything new about what went down?
Nothing. I've heard nothing else about it. And so we are just staring into a rumor vacuum for now. I'm
That's right.
afraid.
I mean, look, the only thing we've heard, and we went over this the last two episodes, and we went in depth last episode. But
We
there was a
did.
new Reddit thread just this morning that got a lot of upvotes and a lot of comments of like, is
Oh,
it
it
true?
did? Okay.
Look,
Okay.
Sadwin Brophy, the son of Jed Brophy, jumped on our Facebook page and made a comment that he didn't like that his orc stuff was cut. But we've talked about, all of the drama behind the scenes. Joseph Mawle is hard of hearing. It made his work and his life very difficult to have to enter the idea of entering season 2 where he's not surrounded by humans at all anymore. He's only surrounded by orcs, and he cannot read the lips of the orcs under prosthetics. Plus, there was some issues and with the hard of hearing and, working with other directors and cast members. It's just a tough situation all around. There is no good guy or bad guy in this situation. They just decided to part ways, and I'm really...
No, but there's no good guy or bad guy in this situation. But if we knew more context, then I would feel a little bit more comfortable, because I've got this uncomfortable notion. Maybe it's just something in my head, but I get the feeling that they were not very accommodating to him when they could have been more accommodating to him. But that's just one man's opinion on the internet, for whatever it's worth.
So, Cliff, other news today, Lord of the Rings has a new logo. This is officially approved by the trademark office. This is the new official Lord of the Rings as owned by Embracer. This is the new logo that will appear on all of your toys and Funko Pops and video games, and at the end of movie credits, and on the back of on the back of DVD cases, and on weapons of... And according to the trademark, Embracer and this logo will be on all merch related to Rings of Power. So Rings of Power merch is in the hands of Embracer, and it's a license deal with Amazon.
How about that? Otaku Senpai in the YouTube chat says, I've seen that logo. It first showed up a few weeks ago.
Well,
I
haven't
seen it yet.
We showed it. We showed a preview of this at San Diego Comic-Con back in July. So we've been digging around, but as of this week, it is official and it's in high res.
Intriguing, but it's not going to be on stuff related to Amazon's TV series.
Yes, all merch related to the TV series will have this new logo, because Embracer is the only company that can make merch. They have the merch license.
Again, that gives us some insights into the delay on toys and merchandising.
That's right.
From the Rings of Power. Yes,
the Rings of Power merchandise was delayed because of the Embracer deal didn't get done until July or August, and it just delayed everything. Adelante in the chat room says, I want an Adar plushie under my tree. I do too. I actually do too.
You are not going to make a plushie out of a tormented... You know what?
He is the most emotionally connected character in the show. He's the only one that shows any sort of benevolence for other creatures. Every single character in the show is like Gil-galad. It's like, we're sending you off to the heaven. And Galadriel's all, I don't care what anyone says, I'm just going to do on my own. You're just along for the ride. We have to share this raft together. Halbrand's got his own machinations. Every single character is selfish. The dwarves are selfish. King Durin's selfish. Elrond's keeping secrets with... The only person that's thinking about other characters is Adar.
Yeah, I get it. You're onto something there, Justin. You might be really onto something.
Will they sell Rings of Power merch on Amazon? That is the goal. That is the paperwork is approved, and the answer is yes. In fact,
wait, have you got some? Ladies and gentlemen, Justin has just now walked away from the camera. This is me narrating the audio podcast version, and now suddenly, in the background, he'd been shuffling around in some boxes. Justin returns to the frame. We can now see him looking expectantly at me.
Hey
Oh
Alexa.
no.
Hey
No,
Alexa.
you got the Rings of
Turn.
Power Alexa ball. Look at that crazy thing. Are you kidding me?
This is the official Rings of
Oh,
Power
look at that crazy
Alexa
thing. It looks like a
ball.
Palantir. It's supposed to be a big black Palantir. Is that what it is?
I think so. I mean, that's what it feels like. I feel like I'm being spied upon. So the merch is happening. It will
Wow.
include the Embracer logo below, and you might have heard that the Alexa division lost $10 billion this year. So who knows if they're going to continue, if they're actually going to put these for sale. But I just set off Suzanne's own Alexa. Hey Alexa, play Rings of Power.
Did you just set off somebody else's Alexa in the room?
So merch is happening.
That's hilarious.
So
Palantir is a dangerous thing, Justin. That's right.
That's
what
right.
Atalante says.
Oh, someone in the chat room just asked, hey, are the cast doing any cons? Well, wouldn't you believe that's my next note.
Wait,
Check this
I
out.
think our next big convention in Anaheim will be WonderCon next spring.
No, look
Right?
at this. This is Brazil's
Brazil
huge
has some
Comic-Con.
yeah, Brazil
Comic-Con
had
Brazil.
amazing stuff.
Look at what Amazon made.
Wow.
They
it's
built
so
an
awesome.
entire ship of Numenor at the convention. They built an entire ship. Wait, let's see that again.
Please rewind
Look,
that.
they built a
Amazing.
full-size Balrog that you could take a photo with. They've got an Arondir actor, the cosplayer there.
Oh,
They,
yes, that's right.
I've never
Garth
seen
Enel.
this at a convention.
Evidently, Ismail Cruz Cordova was there, and some of the other cast members showed up at the Brazil convention, didn't they?
That giant. I've never seen a giant Balrog photo op. Cliff, I don't think we ever had a Balrog at our parties.
That would be amazing.
But look at that! Look at that
amazing.
Balrog photo op. Like
It's nuts.
that is nuts.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. Really.
So, the question is, will we see this at other cons? I better believe it. I mean, you don't build all of this for one-time use. Like,
nope, you'd use it at a lot of other conventions.
they're gonna take this to other conventions.
Could you anticipate that wonderful stuff showing up at San Diego next summer? Wouldn't that be awesome?
Well, that's the trick. See, I don't know what it is. I don't know if we'll see them at Comic-Con next year. Amazon will be at Comic-Con as they always have as Amazon. I don't know if they'll have
It's so cool.
a Balrog in
Dude.
person. No smoke and mirrors here. No, that was legit. Moving on, we've got other news. Cliff, let me see here. According to a new article in Time magazine, a year after returning from New Zealand, they are in England filming season 2, which will be helmed by an all-female directing lineup. So we have it in Time magazine that there are
Right.
3 or 4 women directors doing season 2. So you get the women's touch. I hate it. I hate it when major magazines like this say a female directing lineup. Female is such a clinical term. They're just women. So anyway, we have it. We've heard rumors that Charlotte Brandstrom, who directed episodes 6 and 7, which is the big volcano episodes, the 2 big volcano episodes.
I thought she did 6, 7, and 8. She also directed episode 8. 6, 7, and 8.
Someone in the chat room confirmed that. Maybe she did 8.
Let's do the rundown. J.A. Bayona did episodes 1 and 2. Right? And then
Wayne Yip.
Wayne Chi Yip was 3, 4, and 5. And the remaining
And then
Charlotte
she did 6 and
Brandstrom.
7, and I think Wayne Yip did 8.
Oh, I might be young. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Garth. All right, Garth is
Yeah,
back
Wayne.
with
Yeah.
the details.
So
Wayne's asleep as
anyway,
well.
so
Okay,
season two will have an
okay,
all women directing lineup,
okay.
and we're excited to find out who these people are. The rumors are Charlotte Branstrom. We reported this at
We did.
DragonCon.
We
Um,
did. What's one of the
so
new names? Do we have a rumor of one of the new directors
not
just joining?
yet,
Rumor?
not yet. But look, Cliff.
I don't know. I've been hearing rumors, but maybe it's not worth repeating. Maybe we'll find out later on.
Here's what's been
There's just
frustrating, Cliff, is
there's just
that the
rumors.
last
There's
two
just
weeks,
rumors.
the last 2 weeks, they Amazon has released these new castings the day after
Yes.
our show.
Yeah.
So, Amazon, we know you're watching. Can't you just maybe move it up 12 hours
Yeah.
and let us
That'd be
talk
great.
about it?
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to become torn Wednesday. Don't expect that
No.
suddenly. We're not going to be ever become torn Wednesday. So, yeah, let's take advantage of giving the news cycle right into the geekdom. Really, seriously.
Finrod,
A
Finrod in the
direct
chat.
line of communication into the geek sphere. So, yes, we would love to have that information. to
Finrod
talk
in the
about.
chat says some guy made an amazing Lego Smaug when Desolation of Smaug came out. Well, in fact, Torn staff members created an Orthanc out of Lego and got in all the magazines and stuff like that. They built a full-size Orthanc in their living room.
I remember that was a terrific Orthanc sculpture
And
from
then I think
Lego
they
bricks.
Yeah, and it wasn't a
Unbelievable.
model. Like they built it from scratch, and it was
Oh, it was
amazing. It was like
huge.
it
Yeah.
was like 9 feet tall or something like that.
Yeah, it was great
Um,
stuff.
So yeah, we've the One Ring. There's so many creative people around. Cliff, we have gone a full hour and we haven't even talked about the latest news of casting. Amazon, right after our show last week on Wednesday morning, they announced more new casting for season 2.
That is true. If you guys look at our YouTube archive, you can see all the wonderful new faces, the new actors and actresses who were joining, and we talked about them all at great detail last week. But who do we have? Yes, look at these great new people who are coming to join us. Justin,
Yes.
this is great. This is great.
Oliver Wilson.
Yes.
Is again all of the actors that Amazon is announcing are relatively unknown. So they're fresh faces. Still no star power announcements. So the question is, like, who do we think these people are going to play? Cliff, do you think the Meteor Man is going to go into Rune, and Oliver
Stranger?
Wilson could be part of the Rune area of Middle Earth?
Sure. The further we go east,
Where are the Haradrim from?
they're from the far, far south. And it is possible that, we don't know yet, but they might have reasons to have some characters travel way, way, way far south.
But they haven't set anything up in season 1 that anyone is going south.
No, they didn't mention it at all. But some of the basics are going to be the same. A lot of talk was made in season 1 about the Southlanders. And we're talking about Bronwyn and Theo.
But that became
and all their
Mordor, so
ancestors.
that's not the Southland. That's not the south.
The reason no, not at all. That's not to be confused with the Haradwaith, which is much, much further south. I'm talking about the idea that the ancestors of Bronwyn and Theo had been worshippers or allied to Morgoth all those many, many thousands of years before. And season 1 made a lot of effort to explain there are elves and elven watchtowers watching over generations and generations of descendants of men who used to be allied with Morgoth. So why not wash, rinse, and repeat? In season 2, they could show us other kingdoms and areas of the Harad where those are men who were equally influenced by Morgoth many thousands of years before. They could use the exact same elements of that story to establish that Morgoth had, for much worse, for many, many centuries, been influencing people beyond the reach of the elves and the Noldor.
I mean,
And
that's one of the stories
story.
that's one of the stories that Tolkien was always noodling with the Blue Wizards. He even renamed them.
Yes, he did.
But the rumors are that the two Blue Wizards have the same type of dynamic relationship that the two White Wizards have in the West, right? So
the white,
Gandalf,
and the gray, and the brown. There was white, gray, and brown.
Well, then there's two whites, right?
Well, one replaced the other. Gandalf replaced
They were never at the same
Saruman.
time?
Never at the same time. No.
Okay. Well, anyway, the two Blue Wizards, one of them succumbs to the influence of Sauron Morgoth, and the other one, battles against, or doesn't battle directly, but there's not a lot of factual information, but it is implied that there's a similar dynamic to what happened. Cliff, of the new cast members here, Stuart Bowman, again, I want to remind everybody that Sauron has 20 rings to make. He's made 3 in episode 8. So that's 17.
He didn't make them. Sauron has other.
I don't know. He called it a gift. I'm gonna give him credit.
No, but Celebrimbor made them.
Yeah, under the gifted influence of. Anyways, so
well, yes, but
we have a bunch of dwarves. We have 9 rulers of men that become Nazgul, and we have 7 rulers of dwarves to corrupt.
Yes,
is
we do.
Stuart Bowman a dwarf, an elf, or a man?
I don't know.
This face I could see buried under a big beard. He's got a giant nose. It's almost like this guy is ready to have some dwarvish makeup going on.
You're so gracious. But yeah, he could be dwarven. Yes, he sure could be.
Varking says, I think Stu is a dwarf lord. Next is Gavi Singh Shara. He is, again, in the Lazarus Project, which is probably the only thing that people might know him from. This could be a ruler of men. This could be a person from Rune. This could be an Easterling.
From the lands to the far east.
Are the Easterlings Indian, Persian area? Because the only thing I remember about Return to King movies is that they're very much Indian. Their war elephants are red. They have bony structure, accoutrements on their war personas. So this,
they have fangs. They have shells and fangs on their armor. The Easterlings are definitely the suggestion of being a far, and I hate to say, but the opposite of Occidental is Oriental, and in that sense, Professor Tolkien had an Occidental layout with the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor, and you could say that the Easterlings were more from obviously Persian or perhaps other Asian influenced areas, without being specifically drawn as a parallel to our primary world.
Right.
But
there's
sort of
covers a lot of space. William Chubb, again, this guy looks like a leader of men. This guy looks like he's ready to be corrupted. I don't know. Cliff, I want to get your opinion. Is there any more characters in Numenor that we need to be introduced to?
Yes, we actually do have Isildur's missing brother, Anarion.
Okay, other than that, from a creative standpoint, I feel like we met everybody we need to meet in Numenor, and there isn't any other major players to really,
Well, I think it's important to establish there's an entire community of Numenorians on the far side of the island who are very faithful to the Valar and reverential to the ways that the elves, taught them. And we haven't met them yet. We have not yet met all those people on the other side of the island that are super faithful. So that has yet to come.
I will say that this guy has some deep eyes. and some bags under his
Yes,
eyes that
he does.
remind me of Theoden. Is this an ancestor of Theoden?
Ooh, you mean one of the early of the Eotheod? Could be. Could be some of the earliest ancestors of the Northmen who ended up coming south to live in Rohan. Wow, that could be really cool.
Is he too
And I
old
did.
to be Sir Círdan or Narvi? Círdan needs a
No.
giant beard. He needs to be a big alpha brute with bulging muscle, veiny muscles, and a giant beard that is just perfectly chiseled, square jawed. That's Círdan.
You're so funny. You're so funny.
Moving on, Kevin Eldon was in Game of Thrones and recently Shadow and Bone on Netflix.
Yes.
This guy has a dark persona. I can't imagine that they would announce any of these actors and then bury them under orc makeup.
How about some of them being the voices of Ents and we don't ever see them? What if one of these castings is a voice actor who will be performing Treebeard or some of the other Entish characters?
That's a good point.
Maybe it's a voiceover actor and we will not see him at all. But you don't know. There's going to be a power struggle within Mordor, right? We can anticipate power struggle between Adar and Halbrand/Sauron. So what else is going to have? There will be power struggles on Numenor because the Queen Regent Tarmiriel is now blind, and Pharazôn is going to try to take power from her now that her father is dead. So there's a power struggle happening in two places at once, Numenor and Mordor. Where
This
else?
guy was in Will Keen was in His Dark Materials on HBO.
Yeah, that's right. That's
and
right.
The Crown. Okay, so this guy's been in some stuff. This guy, when I saw this guy, I immediately thought he is like a stock photo of an Onion article of what a creepy uncle looks like.
Well, you know what? You did mention a few minutes ago that we have 7 dwarf lords and we have 9 rulers of men to whom we have to distribute these rings. So no wonder we're seeing all these extra faces.
Garfameo in the chat room says Will Keen here looks like a captain of the faithful on Numenor, the other side of the island.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you think he's a good guy? My read on him, without knowing anything about him, my read on him is like, I cannot trust this guy. And it's interesting that the chat room is like, oh no, this is a good guy. So interesting how casting works like that. Next, we have Selena Lowe, British Asian actress and former martial arts champion. Cliff,
so cool.
What character? What area of characters would martial art skill set be relevant to?
Well, it looks like there's a whole bunch of martial arts that never ever happened in any Tolkien ever. Never. There hasn't been a single martial arts anything. So what you're asking is a complete dry. I have no idea. That's what are you talking about?
But these are the unwritten parts of Rune and Easterlings and Entmoors and the South Runners and stuff that we just don't have a clear picture of what those societies are like. Don't you think that there will be a martial art of where the Blue Wizards end up?
It's possible, but that would be a whole new fresh take on things. If we go to maybe it's not so strange, but we are going to travel to never before seen places in Middle Earth. So therefore, there will be different fighting styles, different combat styles, and different weapons of war. So anything goes.
Is this Elrond's wife?
Celebrian? Maybe. 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 I don't know. That's possible. I think that would be kind of cool to see a distinct Asian actress like that play an elf. We've never seen that
Well,
before.
Suzanne
And
Egg.
that's kind of cool. I think it'd
Suzanne,
be cool.
Suzanne in the chat room, who you might know is the famous button lady from Comic Con, says
Yes.
martial arts. She's got to be an elf. So let me ask you this, Cliff: Where, what elf land would make sense that she is from?
I would not know. I mean, I would not know.
Okay.
Because they introduced a community of elves watching over.
Avari elf.
She could be an Avari, yeah. The elves that never left Middle Earth and never went over to Beleriand.
Avari elf from Rune.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be totally cool. Sure. But that's brand new stuff. We're in an area where Professor Tolkien did not write material.
He didn't write about it. Here's the other interesting thing.
Brand new.
I wish that. Oh man.
What?
They're
What?
announcing the cast for season 2 the same way they announced the cast for season 1, which I feel didn't go well.
Yeah,
because,
we mentioned that. We mentioned that last week. Yes.
Because we don't have any character names, and if you don't want to give us character names, fine, but you don't even give us a class of character.
Yeah, like this person will be a fighter,
ranger, an elf, a dwarf, a healer, a king,
anything.
a ruler, a knight, a ship hand.
A shipwright.
Well, a shipwright implies ship hands too. You know,
it also implies Círdan. If you're going to say, that was his title. His title was Círdan.
And I feel like the casting announcements, the way they did them last time, and the posters, where we only saw their hands, didn't go well. It wasn't fun for anybody. It wasn't fun for fans.
It wasn't even fun for fake names like Tyra. That was even less fun.
And then but the drama of finding some fans finding these people's Instagram accounts and then barraging them with inappropriate comments and I heard you're in Lord of the Rings, what are you doing there? It's like I wish they would. I wish Amazon this time would tell us what class of character they're playing. Also, if you're gonna have if you're going to
alleviate a lot of that, yes.
If you're going to cast a wonderful actress like Selena right here, why don't you have 5 other actors and actresses that share their complexion and start rather than having almost feels like a token per group. It's like no, there's a reason. There's a reason that all these actors are these are all the people from Rune. Imagine if they had released 10 new actors and these are all the people that we're going to see in Rune. That starts to get our gears grinding. Okay, Rune, we can imply that it is a diverse culture, or it is maybe a homogenistic culture. I don't know, but
yeah, or maybe it's a culture that is influenced by a certain genotype. Whatever it might be,
right?
It doesn't have to be correlated to our world. It doesn't necessarily have to be our world at all, but it could be story building internally within the logic of Middle Earth, of having a different place, a different ecosystem, and therefore a different entire history and a genotype of people. Whatever,
Also,
I understand what you're getting at.
Thank you, and I hope the chat room.
Totally get it.
I hope the chat room is understanding that.
I get it.
If Amazon, if the studio would just give us a little bit of information, the conversation that we would have for the next 2 years around the show will be a lot healthier.
You're right.
A lot safer, a lot healthier.
Because the information they give out tells us that it's supporting the story building, the world building. And if that's what it's all about, then we won't be stuck in a vacuum of nothingness where people start to get aggravated by not knowing what the hell it is. Context is king. And if we understand a little bit about the world building efforts through the prism of the casting, isn't that what you're trying to say, Justin?
Yeah, and
we would learn about the world building through the casting lens.
And people, some people in the chat room, Adelante, saying, I think these writers aren't smart enough for that. I don't think it's the writers withholding information. It's the marketing people that are like,
yes,
let me give you some actors, but we're not going to tell you any context of who they are. Just like this next guy, Caleb Lynch, who the chat room is saying, is this Anarion?
No, a lot of people have said this guy looks like Keleborn because he looks like Martin Sokas.
Wait, really?
Haven't you seen the picture side by side of Martin Sokas as Keleborn, and this new dude looks just like him, side by side? You haven't seen that? Put him up on the screen. Seriously, put it up on the screen. I can send you the tweet. So, well, I don't know. Maybe it was Fellowship of the Fans? Yeah, it was. Look at Fellowship of the Fans Twitter account. And they put quick and look and pull it up. It's so fun. And everybody talked about it for several days because of the stunning physical attributes of this new actor, who is Callum Lynch from Bridgerton, and how much he looks like Martin Sokas side by side. Did you see that?
I'm looking. I'm scrolling, guys.
Go down. It's on.
Oh, wait. Okay.
There it is. Yeah.
Is this Keleborn?
Yeah. Isn't it crazy? I, to be honest, when I look at Benjamin Walker, and I see how much Benjamin Walker looks like the guy who Mark Ferguson.
Ferguson.
Who looks like Mark Ferguson from Fellowship of the Ring. I get the same casting vibes that our young lad Callum Lynch, Mr. Lynch here, starts more and more and more to look like a Keleborn, doesn't he?
The chat room is freaking out.
Hey, now let me. All credit goes to our friends at Fellowship of Fans for figuring that out. But let's go back to the person who was cast in the Rings of Power and then left. Remember our original Elrond?
Oh yeah,
Do you know? Poulter. Remember how much you could look side by side at Hugo Weaving and his eyebrows, and then look at Will Poulter and his eyebrows, and side by side you would look at them and say, "Oh yeah,
100%.
That's Elrond. That's Elrond." So the Mark Ferguson connection with Ben Walker is there.
Yep.
The High King Gil-galad, and I think we're looking at
and Morfydd Clark is the same age that Cate Blanchett was.
Yep, exactly.
So it is the intent of this TV show to look like Peter Jackson's movies.
Quite a bit, yes.
So I think this is it. So Cliff, what do you think happened to Keleborn? Do you think the stranger bumps into Keleborn in Rune?
Oh, that would be cool. That would be really cool. Well, the weird thing is that Professor Tolkien wrote a lot of information in unfinished tales, things that were not quite finished, stuff that was published posthumously before he got to figure out how to finalize everything. But we have a lot of historical information about where Keleborn and Galadriel lived and where they traveled and where they went. We have a lot of stuff in unfinished tales. The problem is
they don't have access to that.
They don't have access to license that stuff.
They're going to make up their own story. All right, and that is the last.
That's going to be another point of contention among fans, trying to come to terms with the stuff they're making up. Instead of Anatar, we got Halbrand, right? But that's probably because of licensing.
That's right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new actors that were announced last Wednesday, and then the Wednesday before, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the replacement for Adar. 5, 6, 7. 7 new actors there. So this guy could be Círdan, but I don't know. This guy looks political. So they're introducing a lot more characters for season 2, which is okay to let the hobbits and the Harfoots go away for a season or two. And I just have an issue that Joseph Mawle, not just the character Adar, but Joseph Mawle was an amazing performance. I'm sad they let him go. I'm sad. So he became a fan favorite. Joseph Mawle became a fan favorite. Also, my favorite, Lenny Henry. How could they do that to my boy?
Right.
And then these rumors of Ismail taking maybe the first half of season 2 off. Like the three favorite parts of the show are kind of poof. I want to be excited. I want to be excited for what's in store for season 2. I want to be excited about, the filmmakers getting better at what they do. I want to be excited about seeing Rune and seeing the politics of Mordor and seeing Uruks get. But they're making it difficult with no information about who any of these characters are, and then the people that we did fall in love with are gone. So Garfameo and Varking are saying the dwarves are untouched, and that's fine with them. Look, I know you guys love those dwarves. That's fine. And you guys are getting a set 3 times the size. The new kingdom, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. The new sets for Moria, Khazad-dûm are huge. They're giant, and they're permanent for the rest of the series. They're building these as permanent installations, so they're huge.
Which means we're not going to be spending as much time in
that dining room.
We're not going to be spending as much time in the small caves where they're digging small secret tunnels, and there's a dining room scene. We're going to have a lot more bigger spaces to look at. And you know what? Just think about that elevator. Remember that cool elevator scene when Prince Durin and Elrond are taking the elevator, having that conversation? It'll be more like that, where you're in these big, cool, open spaces. It'll be cool. I am looking forward to more of Rings of Power, and I'm also looking forward to having
Rohirrim.
The War of the Rohirrim. But, as many people have watched our broadcast, and they know how you and I both feel, Justin, I mean, sure, by now, they know how we feel about the mystery boxing of Halbrand and the Stranger and all that stuff, and the type of storytelling where dramatic irony is much more spelled out and it's in the open so that the audience can enjoy it while the characters on screen don't know.
And it has less to do about
what the hell is going on.
It has less to do with the personal tastes of the storytelling we like. It's all about what is appropriate for Tolkien's style of storytelling.
I agree. Oh, absolutely.
That's all we're focused on. What is true to Tolkien?
Absolutely.
How did he construct his stories? Not with mysteries. Tolkien tells you what they're going to do. He keeps telling you what they're going to do. Every step of the way, it's like, next we're going to do this.
Look at it this way. Remember when Saruman poisoned the mind of King Theoden? Let's come back to the 20th anniversary of the Two Towers, okay? Do you remember what a major plot point was? That King Theoden had no idea that Saruman was influencing him the way he did.
And that was soft magic. You keep bringing up soft magic.
It's very soft magic. But, and here's the thing. The audience knows. The audience watching The Fellowship of the Ring and Two Towers, they know for sure that Saruman is the bad guy and that King Theoden, is definitely under control. And guess what happens? Dramatic irony happens. People in the audience know, but King Theoden does not realize what's happened to him until the miraculous moment when he is healed and Grima Wormtongue is removed painfully from the influence on the king.
And Peter Jackson does this clever thing where he jump cuts to Saruman sliding across the floor.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was not expecting that. Having not read the books, I just thought he's just going to heal an old man under the direction of Wormtongue. I was shocked that was Saruman.
Imagine how much less effective it would have been for the audience if the audience was thinking, Gandalf, are you making up shit? Why is this real? Is this threat of Saruman really real? No, you know it's real. The audience knows things that the characters do not know. And that is how Tolkien writes his stories. So yes, I agree, Justin. We're in alignment.
We're in alignment. So happy 10th anniversary to An Unexpected Journey. Happy 20th anniversary. This week, 20 years ago, we were sat in a movie theater at midnight discovering how many ways Peter Jackson could diverge from the books. And some people stormed out of the movie theater at 1:30 in the morning. Some people stormed out of the movie theater saying when Frodo and Sam are at Osgiliath and Samwise begins his speech by saying, by all rights, we shouldn't even be here. A staff member of the OneRing.net stood up, yelled at the screen, said, "You're right. You shouldn't be there. You were never near Osgiliath." And he walked out of the theater. And The Two Towers is still his least favorite of all Middle-earth adaptations. So we have always been on Peter Jackson's side, but we have always had a diversity of opinion. And that diversity of opinion is what made this fandom and OneRing.net so wonderful to be a part of, because our friend can go out and sulk in the hallway, but then we can come out and say we love this movie and we both appreciate each other's opinion, and we hear each other. We hear all his gripes about all the changes that they've made. He hears all the reasons that I liked it and why they work for me. And we all respect each other in our opinions. And I feel like some of that has been lost on Twitter. And Twitter's just got more toxic. And if we just stay with the OneRing.net, we can still have... By the way, Cliff, my final thought on Two Towers, full screen theatrical edition.
Pan and scan. Oh my God.
Pan and scan, SD.
Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
Cliff, I had never read the book. And I got to tell you, I was confused. I was confused. Okay. Because I remember asking you and O2THX and Larry Ross, a couple other people, why did Tolkien write Sauron and Saruman's name to sound so similar? Because I'm an idiot that got them confused. Because I'm like, all right, who's the bad guy? Sauron, Saruman, but they all both say Sauron, Saruman. Saruman just has an M in the middle. Why did Tolkien make their names so similar? Why can't he have the two bad guys sound completely different? So when people say, what are the two towers? I understood why people don't know which two towers. What two towers? Barad-dûr? Orthanc? What about that other tower? What about that tower that turns into a green tower in Return of the King? What are the two towers? And who's the bad guy? I wasn't until the third movie and Saruman was dead that I really understood that Sauron was the flaming eye and he was the real bad guy, and Saruman, it just didn't click for me, and I was very confused.
Really?
Because I'm not a smart man. So there you go. The two towers. What two towers? I don't know. We
really learned a lot today, didn't we?
So there you go. The Rings of Power needs to be made for me, an idiot TV viewer. Spell it all out. Don't mystery box everything. Just tell me things so I can appreciate the story, because I did not have a good time trying to figure out all these clues. You're never going to outsmart fans. You're just going to piss them off. Cliff, final words.
The final words, I'm going to acknowledge the wonderful people in the chat room and say, yeah, that is right. That is why Ralph
And Bakshi, Suzanne in the chat room says in Bakshi's movie, he's called Aruman.
That's exactly
even Ralph Bakshi knew.
But you know what? I think the producers might have influenced Ralph, because some of the recordings are inconsistent. Sometimes in Ralph's movie, he says Saruman as the name of the character, and sometimes Gandalf says the name Aruman. So yeah, it's weird, but I get it. I get it. I get it. But you know what? Stop that, Saruman. You're so funny. You know what? Congratulations to the 10th anniversary of The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey. Thank you for giving us the scene of the White Council with Elrond, Galadriel, Gandalf, and Saruman all meeting together to discuss great things in Middle-earth, like his incessant consumption of mushrooms. And also, happy 20th anniversary to probably the very, very best out of the 6 Middle-earth films that Peter Jackson made. Happy anniversary to the Two Towers. Lovely to have you.
Thank you to the filmmakers and to the studio execs at New Line Cinema and the executive producers and all the lawyers and attorneys and everybody who, in a post 9/11 world, kept the name, the Two Towers. Post 9/11, there was a lot of talk. Do they rename this movie? How dare you? How dare you come out with a movie called The Two Towers
right
year
after the tragedy
of the Twin Towers
of the World Trade Center being bombed and by the planes? Yeah, craziness. But they never did.
They never did. Trust Tolkien. Amazon, you listening? Trust Tolkien. If you wrote it down, trust him. We're good enough to get through it.
You know it. You know it. If Professor Tolkien wrote his stories and his characters a certain way, it's because he had a linguistic reason and usually a spiritual and metaphysical reason to do so. And as long as we remember that, we're going to be right as rain. We'll remember that. Guys.
And the chat room has spoken. I'm going to try to get the DVD player working so we can go through the menus with you guys next week. And while we do that, Cliff can give you his 22-minute epic speech on why not showing Saruman's death in this movie was the biggest crime in awards history. But that's all for the show today. Cliff, take us out.
Thanks for being with us, everybody. You're a wonderful community, and it's really, really fabulous. Thank you, Troy, for saying that. That's very kind of you. Utaku Senpai and Garth and Cecilia and Finrod, everybody, you're a great group. Thanks for being with us. And you know, Justin, thank you for coming with me again today as we journey always towards a greater understanding, especially when I can teach Justin something who hasn't read the books. Thank you for letting us get a greater understanding of how much we love and appreciate the world and the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. It's lovely to have you guys here. More announcements will probably happen tomorrow because of Prime Video's penchant for releasing information tomorrow, and we'll talk about it next week on Tuesday for sure. Join us again at 5 o'clock Pacific time for another weekly dose of all your curiosities and rumors and conversations talking about the Rings of Power and the works of Tolkien. Namarie, that's how you say it in Elvish, but as I like to say, good night and good luck, or better yet, buenos noches y buena suerte. Bye, everybody.